the general manager for Accertify in EMEA. Accertify is one of the world's leading e-commerce fraud prevention companies, and some of our clients include some of the world's best-known brands across travel, retail, and financial institutions. So, the topic, as Helen said, for today's conversation is about effective risk management strategies. I was asked to try and talk about the minimum risk environment, or what is required to create the minimum risk environment. But I'm afraid I'm going to start off at the very beginning and saying I don't like that phrase. Minimum risk environment implies to me that you are doing the bare minimum possible to identify your bad customers, and actually not thinking about all of your customer base, the vast majority of whom are going to be good. And it also means that you will therefore probably not be thinking ahead and not thinking across your entire customer journey. So for me, the phrase that I think is much more accurate is actually how to create an effective, enriched risk management strategy. So in order to do this, what I'm going to talk about is how there is all the different sorts of data across your customer journey. And I'm going to break down the customer journey into 3 large chunks. So first of all, it's the account protection part of the customer journey. This is right at the very beginning. And this could be when you are protecting your customers' loyalty accounts, their digital wallets, or even just their private login details. Second part is going to be a little bit about how to use your SCA optimization to help your revenue maximization, as well as also continuing that focus on minimizing your fraud prevention. And then lastly, we're going to talk a little bit about disputes and chargeback management. This is a hugely important area for an increasing number of our merchants, and returns and refunds abuse is growing significantly for them. So we'll talk a little bit about that. So before we go forwards, I'm going to go backwards. When e-commerce fraud prevention first started, it was very much all focused at the point of payment, at which point there is a very little amount of data available to you, typically billing, shipping, name, and then payment card number. But actually, this has changed, and this is where the fraudsters were having a really good time, and they were really making a lot of money and making a lot of headway. But over the last few years, the fraud attacks have changed in their scope and are now crossing many points across the customer journey. And you can see this illustrated in this survey from the MRC Global Fraud and Payment Survey last year. And what I want you to take from these numbers is really the number of fraud attacks being experienced at multiple different points in a customer journey. And what you'll also notice is actually there are a lot less fraud attacks focused on the point of payment. And why is this? And this is because fraudsters want customers' personal data. You can see from this data from Arco's labs in 2022 that the amount of attacks of fraudsters trying to take personal data is absolutely immense. And you can see right at the bottom that payment card number is actually the least area of focus for the fraudsters. And why do they want personal data? Because it gives them so much access. It gives them access to multiple touch points across all of your customers' journeys, both in your businesses, but across those customers' other buying experiences. And let's take a closer look at this. So if we use this Sankey chart as an illustration of some customer journeys for your business, so you can have, what you can see here is that the point of payment, as I mentioned before, has relatively little amount of data available in it. But actually before that point, there is a huge amount of data available across multiple different customer touch points. And also your customers have got to your point of payment in a huge variety of ways. So let's take as an example. Let's imagine that I've got a loyalty account with a clothing retailer and I've just moved house. So I want to have a housewarming party and I want to buy a new outfit for my party. I go online, I go onto the retailer and I can either join via my browser or via the app. And while I'm there, I log on to my account and I go in and I check my loyalty points because I want to see how much I can redeem against my purchase. I then also have to change my billing and my shipping address because I've just moved house. From there, I go shopping. And because I'm looking to buy something new, I might buy multiple different items in multiple different sizes, some of which I know I'm going to return once I've tried them on to see which one I like best. I then go to the point of payment where I want to redeem some loyalty points against, as well as part payment with my actual payment vehicle. And at that point, do I then make the purchase and then do I log out? So if you think about that's one possible customer journey in all of the different variations that your customers could take upon your site, you can see how each one of those points in that customer experience is a point of vulnerability for a fraudster. So having my name, my login, my password, all of that information is so much more valuable than just having my payment card details. So obviously, the bad news is that fraudsters have a huge range of opportunities to attack now. But the good news is that as fraud prevention specialists, we have all of that data in order to try and track those fraudsters, identify them, and help stop them doing any business. So if we go back to the customer journey, what I'm now going to do is, like I said, take you through a little bit about each of those different customer stages of the life cycle to help you see how we use the data and how it can help you in your journeys. So let's focus on account protection to start with. Now, I'm sure many of you will have noticed the massive increase in bot attacks on your sites. And in fact, over 9 out of 10 fraud attacks now are bot generated. They're not human initiated. And this is providing a huge, huge area of concern for all merchants because they're extraordinarily hard to fight. They're not just large volume blunt force attacks. There are now many, many sophisticated attacks. And you can see these really rather scary statistics that potentially 25% of all new accounts now are fake. 4% of all logins are credential stuffing attempts. And there's been a 250% increase quarter on quarter in screen scraping. So these are significant attacks that the old ways of just writing a few rules isn't going to help. So how does Accertify help prevent this? We take, as I mentioned before, the huge amount of data that is available at the early stages before you get to payment, and we can use that. So it could be, how did you get onto the site? Was it via your laptop? Was it via a mobile? We combine that with things like user behavior analytics. So was there any cutting and pasting behavior? What were your mouse movements like? And even more importantly, we look at our reputational data. We have a huge community pool of data of merchants from around the world. So we look and say, have we seen you before? Does this email look familiar? Have you behaved like this recently? And we combine all of that data together and we pass it through our machine learning models to create a single risk score. That risk score enables merchants to then make a decision about how they want to apply to their customer journey and enables them to create selective friction. So you can choose whether to let a good customer just have an entirely frictionless experience and go straight through to payment, or you might selectively apply friction by asking somebody to step up for a second factor of authentication if you're not quite sure about who they are, or equally you might just choose to block the account. And all of this data enables us to help our customers fight multiple different use case attacks. I'm not going to go through all of these, but I think I'll just give you a couple of examples. So one of our large retailers was actually subject to a very sophisticated bot attack recently, where it wasn't a volume bot attack, and so therefore their cybersecurity team didn't pick it up, but it was a malicious account create bot attack. And the risk score that our solution provided from all of that data compilation enabled them to spot the attack and take immediate action. And similarly for screen scraping, for a lot of our airline customers, screen scraping is a huge issue. They want some screen scrapers from organizations like, flight aggregators, but equally they want to be able to identify malicious screen scrapers who are trying to manipulate their inventory. So that's the beginning of the customer journey, where you can see we've aggregated and accumulated a lot of data. If we talk about the payment journey, just because payment fraud is reducing because of our friend SCA, wouldn't be a fraud presentation without talking about some SCA, we have seen obviously unintended consequences, customer friction, increased 3DS costs, and now fraudsters are also attacking one-time passwords. So our merchants are asking us more and more about how not only can we make sure that we minimize their fraud at payment, but also how do we help them maximize their revenue. And this is, again, going back to my point about how an enriched risk strategy enables you to think about the whole customer and merchant experience, not just doing the bare minimum. So I'm going to share a case study with you from Marks and Spencer's. So for those of you who don't know, they're a large UK retailer, and they came to us and said they wanted to really work out how to do exactly that. Maximize their revenue at point of purchase, because they didn't want to have to go through SCA because they had a really great fraud rate, but also how to continue on their fraud prevention and do it safely. So we worked with them. We moved them to pre-auth. We provided an additional pre-auth fraud screen through our machine learning capabilities. And as you can see, these results are pretty spectacular. Nearly 100% of their customers now have a frictionless experience through the website. And we've still also, because of our pre and post-auth screening, now managed to reduce even further their best-in-class fraud rates. And then lastly, disputes and returns and refunds abuse. Previously called friendly fraud, but we're banning that now. It's called first-party abuse. Let's be clear, it's not remotely friendly. So this is a massive, massive issue and is growing a lot. The pandemic taught people how to raise chargebacks. Generous merchant refund policies mean that more and more customers are learning how to refund and return items. The growth of e-commerce means that more people buy more things online and there are more returns happening. And you can see from these statistics from the National Retail Federation on the left that it's now they estimate that 10% of all returns in the US are fraudulent. So this is a huge problem. And in fact, many of our merchants are now telling us that the cost of refunds is more impactful to their business than their cost of chargebacks. So Accertify, using all of the data that we have gathered before at all the different points through that customer journey, from the right at the very beginning, all the way through that point of payment, now has a clear view of what your customers look like. And we can work with our merchants now to say to them, based on what we've seen before and what we've seen from their previous behavior, do you want to send an item out to this person? Are they a potential refund and first policy abuse person? Do you think they are actually basically a good customer who's just chancing their arm and you can actually block them once or tell them off or give them a call and then they'll stop and they'll be good again? Or actually, are they a habitual abuser that you just don't want in your business because all they do is suck up your money? So we are able to take data from all of the customer transactions all the way through that experience to create more insight and more help for other merchants at this point of the journey. So this has been a whistle-stop tour of where the data in your organizations can help you. And I hope that you can see that it can really help across your entire customer journey. You might need to get data from different parts of your organization. It might mean working with the digital marketing teams. It might mean working with customer operations. But there is a huge amount of data out there that you can bring together to help you create that enriched and layered risk management strategy and not just do the bare minimum possible. Thank you.